All right, UFC 317 in the books Thursday around 4:11 Eastern, 3:11 Central, and AJ is delighted to hear that we have a new lightweight champion. Isn't that right, AJ?
I mean, he's only champ because Islam had to vacate.
Is that right?
He didn't, he's not the lineal champ. That's all I'll say. But he's champ nonetheless. Did it in good fashion. Now, I will say, probably not pound for pound number one, but
We'll get into the pound for pound discussion in a minute, but just breaking down the fight from my end, I mean, we've heard over the years guys come and go, and everyone asking who's going to be the next sort of Conor McGregor figure, who's going to be that guy that comes through, burst on the scene. And there have been plenty of people that have had those comparisons put on them, whether it worked out or not. But I truly do feel like this is the closest that we've been to the likes of Conor, and just the way that Topuria calls his shots. He says what he's going to do, and then he usually is exceeding expectations. I mean, going into this, he didn't seem nervous at any point during fight week. Definitely not during the walkout whenever he was smiling on the way out. And I mean, he just calls his shots. He said he was going to knock out Charles in the first round. He said that Charles comes forward and that's all he needs. And that's he hit the nail right on the head. I mean, Charles came forward like he always does with everybody, using the kicks, trying to put pressure on Topuria. But outside of the one grappling exchange that Topuria also dominated, by the way, which not a lot of people would have expected, he did exactly what he was going to do. The first clean combination that he landed put Charles out cold. And we knew his power could carry over to 55 because we saw it against Jai Herbert, but to see it happen on a stage like this in International Fight Week, I mean, this guy's stardom and just his impact on the UFC right now is through the roof, and I can't wait to see what's next.
yeah, I mean, Ilya is probably the biggest star in the UFC right now. I do think he is, one of the best fighters in the UFC right now. I think it's such a great time to be a UFC fan right now. Obviously, we're not getting the quality of pay per views that we're used to, but we are watching potential greatest of all time between Islam and Ilya. I feel like, if those two were to fight and whoever wins that, I feel like you could label them as the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. If they get a couple more wins, I feel Islam's already top five, and I feel like if Ilya gets a win over Armin and maybe another defense, I mean, I feel like he could also be top five. Um, so it's really a crazy time to be a fan of the UFC, watching this go down in real time. But was sad. I will say I did pick Charles to win. Just had a feeling that did not work out. Uh, I didn't think that Ilya was going to have the grappling skills. I know he's a good grappler. He's got a BJJ base, but to pass over Charles Guard as easy as he did, um, and then just stand back up. I mean, it was pretty crazy to see. And then obviously he gets one combination in and puts Charles out. I don't think I've ever seen Charles go out like that.
Never. I've never seen anything like it with Charles. He's been so durable at 55. He's always been hittable, and that's why I thought Topuria was going to end up winning this fight. But we've always seen Charles get knocked down, go through some adversity before he then puts it on his opponents. But in this one, he just wasn't able to have that opportunity. And one thing that you mentioned while you were talking about Topuria was you mentioned Armin Sarukian. Is that what you feel like should be next? Because it seems like there's three clear options that could all be very entertaining and very good, viable options next at lightweight. But is that what you think should be next?
I think there's two. I don't even want to entertain Justin Gaethje getting a title shot. I don't think he deserves it. Um, I think Armin is the most deserving out of him and Patty. I feel Armin is one of two guys, maybe three in the UFC that can actually beat Ilia Topuria. Armin's very, very good. I was worried about him. I was worried about Islam when they was booked to fight Islam. So if you want to go who deserves it the more, who is the number one contender, yeah, it's Armin. But if the UFC wants to make money, if they want to go what's going to make them the most money, then it's Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett is good. I think he has a chance. He's a lot better than I feel people give him credit for. I feel like it could spark a new little rivalry in the UFC because we don't really have a rivalry. We haven't had one in a while. I think the last one was probably Adesanya versus Pereira. So I feel like Patty versus Ilia would be entertaining, but I don't think Justin Gaethje deserves a title shot. I don't think he's going to get one. I feel what would be best is if Armin got it and they did Patty versus Gaethje, or I don't think Gaethje would win. And then if Ilia gets past Armin, and then fight Patty, or what do you think's next?
I don't think the UFC should waste an opportunity that they have right now. I mean, whether Dana wanted Patty to be in the cage or not, he got in the cage. It created a moment. It created buzz on social media. It gave fans the anticipation that that's going to be next. And not only that, but this is a rivalry that's in a sort of feud that's been building for, 3-4 years now? I mean, they had the whole hand sanitizer incident in London years back, whenever they were both coming up on the scene. And back then, Patty was co-maining fight night cards while Topuria was lower down in the card. And to see the rivalry and the sort of dislike between them, the real, genuine dislike or hatred, as even Patty said on Eric Nixik's show, that they have for each other. I mean, I don't think you waste an opportunity like this. You said in there that you think Gaethje would probably lose to Patty. I don't know what I'd think about that fight, but my mindset, if I'm the UFC, is don't even take the risk. Don't even take the chance. You have something that is gigantic right now, as is. Just make it happen now. And Topuria said he wants to fight at the end of the year. He wants to fight one more time this year. So in my perfect world, and what I think the UFC should do, just book Patty versus Ilia in December, last pay-per-view of the year in Vegas. And then have Gaethje and Armin fight if that's what they want to do. Because remember, not long ago, Dana said that with Armin's whole mishap from the January pay-per-view, that he's going to have to earn his way back. And yes, he did make weight this past weekend as the backup, so that can do a little bit to get back in the good graces. But if I'm the UFC, I do not waste this opportunity at all. Make Patty versus Ilia. It's going to sell the most. And honestly, at this point, this is debatably one of the biggest fights the UFC can make right now, because you look at the two big ones that we thought were going to happen this year, Tom and John. That's not happening because John ran away. And Ilia and Islam. Islam moved up. He vacated the title. He's fighting Jack Della sometime before the year ends. And we don't know if Islam will come back down, or Topuria's talked about going up. I don't think that's going to happen. So there's an argument to be made that Ilia versus Patty is the biggest fight the UFC can make right now. I mean, so when you have an opportunity like this, do not waste it. Make it happen right now. Seize the opportunity. Patty versus Ilia, December in Vegas. That's what I would do.
Yeah, it's I agree. Biggest fight. We need big fights to be made. I feel that's one thing the UFC is really lacking. We don't. Besides GDP versus Chimaev, we don't have a scheduled title fight. There's no pay-per-view in September, so I feel like the UFC needs to quit fucking around and give us the fights we want to see. This is one of them. As for Charles, I don't even know. I wouldn't even be mad if Charles retired. Sad to see someone like that go out the way he did. But if he wants to keep fighting, maybe I say just give him a max after the Dustin Poirier fight, win or lose. I think that's a good fight. One we got to see, but didn't really get to see. He got Charles got the esophagus injury and almost got paralyzed. So I'd like to see that for Charles, or like I said, retirement. Because I mean, as we see, as long as Ely is around, this guy just can't touch the belt.
And seemingly, there's a very real chance that this was Charles' last crack at gold. He's getting a little bit older in age for those lower divisions, and getting flatlined like that less than 3 minutes into the fight. It's he's gonna have some ground to make. So glad that Charles is okay, though. Glad that he got up, showed embrace with Topuria, but we'll see what happens next with that. But we have a co-main event. Alessandro Pantoja, literally no diffs, Kai France, and that's what I got out of this fight. There was not one moment. Normally, you see in a title fight, even if it's one-sided, that people have their moments, that an opponent will have their moment. There was 0 moments in this fight where I thought Kai France had an upper hand, where I thought he had any sort of significant moments, any clean strikes. I mean, Pantoja with his pressure, just sprinting towards him at times with the and ending with that leg kick combination, which was really unorthodox, but it was giving Kai France problems. And obviously, we knew going into this that there would be a sizable advantage for Pantoja on the ground whenever it would inevitably get there. So going into this, I said submission for Pantoja. It ended up being a rear naked. And now it seems like Pantoja's finally getting the respect that he deserves. I mean, we talked about pound for pound earlier with Elia, whether he should be number one. And just to sidetrack onto that real quick, I feel like he should be number one at least till Islam fights. And then once Islam fights and if he beats Jack, then we can have that conversation. But for Pantoja, I mean, this guy was in the top 8, top 9 for a while, even after that at the Kerwin, and now he beats Kai France dominantly. And the UFC has him at 5. I still think even that's too low. I would have him above Drakus at that 4 spot, just behind Merab, Islam, and Ilya. But, I mean, just watching this fight, it was incredible to see how, as a champion, Pantoja's getting better. That's what I got out of it. What about you?
I mean, not much to say about this fight. Pantoja dominated, came in just like most people thought he would. I like Pantoja. Like you said, I think he's been disrespected for a little too long. He said that in the press conference that the pound rankings were bullshit. Like I said, we're all glad to see him up there. Glad that he took Kai out of there. I was kind of sick of this guy. But yeah, Pantoja just goes in there, like you said, like the world saw. Did not even take the foot off the gas pedal one moment in that fight. Just a complete domination. Didn't even look like Kai France should be in a professional fighting league. That's how we made him look. Pantoja just went in there, dogged him, subbed him in the third, made him cry, got out of there. So, I mean, we know what's next for Pantoja. We'll wait for that. Kai France, buddy, I don't know. GFL, PFL, Bellator, Cage War, pick one, bro.
Yeah, for Kai France, I mean, I definitely feel for him in this spot because it seemed like he did all the right things going into this camp. I mean, he talked about how confident he was, um, and how he had prepared really well in this, how he had a great camp with all the CKB boys. Um, but I mean, it's just for it to go this way, for him not to have a moment is. I really just think it speaks more to Pantoja than it does Kai Car-France. I still think he has talent, obviously, um, but this is all about Pantoja at the end of the day. It just seems like it's not often you see guys get exponentially better and you see clear growth while they're champion and while they're in their championship reign. Um, and that's what we're seeing with Pantoja. I mean, every single time out, he's just looking better and better. The cardio looks better. I mean, his aggression and his striking has always been there, but the striking looks even cleaner at times now. Um, and then his grappling is just, I don't think there's anyone in flyweight that can deal with his grappling at the moment. I mean, just his, what was that?
I know someone.
You know someone? I think that's the cue. So before, shout out to Pantoja. I have him number four pound per pound. Um, and but now we go to the fight of the night, and let me rephrase that: the fight of the year.
One of one of the best fights I've ever. No glaze. One of the best fights I've ever seen with my own eyes.
1,000%. I mean, for a 3 round fight for Joshua Van and Brandon Royval to put on this type of pace and this output, especially. I mean, you look at the significant strikes and the total strikes. I mean, these guys were throwing Brandon Royval threw almost 500 strikes. I mean, it's ridiculous. And one of the judges, I will say, before we give Van his praise because it is due, um, one of the judges gave a 20 or 30-27 scorecard. That is absolutely ridiculous. But for Joshua Van coming in on short notice just after 3 weeks ago, winning at UFC 316 in Jersey, coming into Vegas against the number one contender at 23 years old. I mean, this is something you don't see often, and this is something that's really special. He won't have a chance to be the youngest champion ever if he does end up beating Pantoja next because he will be a few months ahead of John Jones. But I mean, still, the potential for this guy to win the belt at 23 possibly is insane. I mean, and with the fight, it seemed like anytime Royval got into his face, he was throwing more than Van, but Van just seemed to have the hardest strikes. I mean, anytime Brendan Royval would throw those jabs, throw the double jabs, and try to enter, he would just get caught with hooks to the body, hooks to the face. I mean, straight rights, you name it. Van seemed to have the advantage in the punching power for sure. Um, and it was just, I think what's most impressive is that with a guy like Royval, we know what we're getting. He's always been on the forward pressure. He's always been on the gas, and he's always put out a lot of output. Nothing like this, but he's been known for his output. And Van seemingly he kept up with it and he matched it at times. And even dealing with all that chaos, he was able to land cleaner and harder. It was just super impressive coming in, like I said, on 3 weeks' notice. Huge, huge jump in competition. And now we have a flyweight title fight. And to be honest, I don't know if flyweight's ever been in a better spot.
Yeah. Shout out Joshua Van bringing hype back to the flyweight division, making it interesting again. I did pick Joshua Van to win this one. Um, so super exciting. I'm a big Joshua Van guy. I love seeing him fight. He's fought on 3 pay-per-views already this year, with the potential to fight on another one and main event it this time. Like you said, at the age of 23 is absolutely nuts. I mean, that's just some baller stuff. I could tell Pantoja is scared because he's talking about fighting Marov now. Um, So hopefully we get to see this fight. Van deserves it. Um, and I don't know. I mean, it's a toss up. It really is. But I mean, you just can't give Joshua Van enough love and praise for what he's done. I mean, fought on 313, comes in 2 months later, I think, about 2 months, fights at 316, and then 3 weeks later, fights on 317. I mean, the kid is just crazy. Uh, I really do hope he becomes champ. He deserves it. Roy Ball, it takes two to tango. He did good as well. Like you said, throwing a lot more than Van. I mean, it was a super entertaining fight. For Roy Ball, he can just either do Moreno 3 or um, rebook the Manel Koff fight.
Yeah, you could rebook the Manel Cop fight, but one thing I want to get to regarding Van and regarding just the event in general. I mean, last two events now, we've had guys coming into the cage after title fights and doing these stare downs and doing these promos for the next fights. And it seems like outside of this year, we hadn't really seen that as much from the UFC as back in the day. Um, so I think it's really cool from the UFC to be creating these moments. Obviously, the Patty one was Dana said that he didn't want that to happen, but it did, and I might just be calling his bluff on that. Um, and then bringing out Van right after his fight, having him sit cage side for him to come in and stare down the winner. It was awesome to see. So I just want to give it. And then before that, 316, having Amanda come in, stare down to Kayla Harrison. I just want to give props to the UFC. I think we need more of this. I think it creates more excitement, more engagement. I think it can bring in more casual fans. Um, that let's say they miss a card and they want to know what's next, and they see moments like this that create such hype and such buzz. I think we need to see more of this. It's good that we've seen this, and I'm glad that the UFC is kind of coming around on this because it only creates buzz and hype for these next events. So shout out to Josh Van. Excited to see whenever he gets his title shot. Maybe, I mean, shoot, maybe him and Topuria are just on the same card again, and him and Pantoja as well. I mean, in December, I wouldn't mind that one bit. Or, I mean, putting Pantoja and Joshua Van in Madison Square Garden could never go wrong. But we move on down the card. Upset here to a degree, not too much actually, because it was even odds going in. You saw the line kind of sway a little bit with Moicano being a favorite, and then money started coming in on Dariush. It ended at about an even line, but shout out to Dariush for weathering a big storm, getting caught in the first round by Moicano. I thought there was potential for it to be over right then and there, but I mean, we see here Dariush was able to weather that storm, and then at the start of the second round, he came out on the gas. He was pressuring Moicano, making him tired, throwing more strikes. Um, and it was really good to see Darius back in the one column, especially since he hasn't been active. Last fight was back in 2023 whenever he got knocked out by Arman Sarukian. So overall, Darius just looked more well-rounded than Moicano. His cardio held up even after getting dropped. So good win for Darius. What do you think of the fight?
I think it was a fight. It wasn't boring and bad, but I mean it was all right. Benny did his thing. I didn't think he was going to win. Especially coming his last fight was getting colded by Arman Sarukian. And he got knocked out again before that. So, I didn't think he was going to do too well coming in, but shout out Benny, he did. Now I really don't know what's next for Benny. I don't even think of a fight. I think.
Yeah, I mean, lightweight's always fun. It's always been a division that's been stacked with talent. So just looking at it here, I mean, you got Gamrot, you've got Hooker, You could give him someone like Fiziev. There's Michael Chandler that's always out there. There's BSD that's out there.
I feel like now that he's got this win and he's got a little more rhythm, maybe now he takes the Rufy fight potentially.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, Rufy called him out earlier this year, and that could be a very fun fight.
Yeah,
with Benny and someone.
And that's on Moicano. You're now on a 2-fight losing streak. Getting older, it's rough. I feel like even though he might be getting booked now to fight Rufy, actually, but Moicano versus Chandler, one of them has to win. And I feel like that's a good fight to do. I think it'd be a fun fight. One I want to see. I would like to see both of these guys win again. So.
Yeah, I mean, Moicano's right there at 12, and Chandler's at 13 in the rankings. So that would be a feasible fight for sure. And yeah, good to see. It'll be interesting to see what Moicano will do because, I mean, he's been saying it all along. He can't afford to lose, and he has been losing. So, which the Islam thing, a lot of people don't even count that because, listen, you got put in that position on a day's notice against the then number one pound for pound guy in the world. It's just a hard situation, and it's at the end of the day, it's Islam. No one's going to knock you for losing to Islam. So, but it'll be interesting to see. Lightweight's always stacked with talent. We have a little comeback here with Peyton Talbot now. Obviously lost earlier this year to Renato Barcelos. Coming in against Lima, I was really nervous for Talbot here. I mean, he was an underdog for the first time in his career, and going in, I thought Lima was just sort of a younger, a little bit more well-rounded version of Barcelos. I mean, he's got finishes in the UFC. He's super well-rounded. His grappling is amazing, and that was the question with Talbot was, can his takedown defense and his defensive grappling hold up? And it did more than just that. I mean, he was able to reverse positions. He was able to stuff takedowns, and he was winning on the feet after Lima started to kind of spam the takedowns a little too much. It was really impressive from Talbot. I mean, in a 5-month span from January to now, seeing the growth in the grappling and the wrestling was a really good sign for him and his trajectory at this point. So I think a lot of people are going to buy their stock back in Peyton Talbot. I never sold mine. I still think he's a young prospect who can work his way up methodically in this bantamweight division, and it'll just take time. I don't think he needs to be necessarily fast-tracked or anything. But it was good to see Talbot get back in the win column and do it while facing some of that adversity and answering those questions that we had.
Yeah, one thing I text Preston on this is it was crazy to see how good Peyton Talbot's grappling and defensive grappling got in just 5 months. Just how good is Johnny Barcelos, man?
Absolute dog.
Yeah. But Peyton, I'm a big Peyton fan. I follow him on social media. He's a cool guy. He's a good guy. Good to see his significant other posting his win on his Instagram as well. But yeah, shout out Peyton. We said silence a lot of what the doubters had to say. Everyone thought Felipe Lima was going to come in and just wrestle him, and it was just crazy. It was like the roles were completely switched. Lima had I think, a good advantage on the feet. He was piecing Talbot up at points, and then he would just be an idiot and throw a takedown in and get it failed. And Talbot, he had some good Granby rolls in there. He just looked good. He called out Adrian Yanez. I think that's a good fight to make. Felipe Lima, back to the drawing board. I really don't know.
Yeah, for Lima, it was a little weird because in the first round, he was having success with the hands. I mean, he was landing the hardest shots. He was closing the distance well, and then he was just kind of spamming the takedowns and trying to get to the ground as much as he could. And the commentary talked about it a little bit. I mean, I don't know if Lima got hit with something and he could feel the power coming back from Talbot, but all throughout the fight, it just felt like the game plan was a little backwards with him because you saw the success that he had and how he was landing in the first round, and he just wasn't picking up on that. So that was sort of the weird part for me with this fight is that Lima was having success on the feet and just thought that it wasn't. It must have not realized that he was doing as well as he was. So not to take anything away from Talbot, but that was something that I noticed, and obviously the commentary noticed it as well. So that was one thing that Lima and his coaching staff is gonna they'll correct that moving forward for sure.
Yeah. So all in all, 317. It was pretty good. I mean,
Best card. I think it's the best card of the year.
Yeah, it's up there. It's right there with 311 and 314. Shout out to UFC for lowering our standards that we get excited for Peyton Talbot on the main card. We now have to deal with I was going to say that before we actually ended it.
Glad Jack Hermansson's okay. So earlier down on the card, some other results that happened at the UFC 317. Gregory Rodriguez, the RoboCop, landed a clean left hook, I believe it was, that put Hermansson out cold. And I think I don't know if Herb Dean was getting a coffee whenever it landed, or if he was in the stands, or what Herb was doing, but he was a little far away on that one. Rodriguez landed one extra shot, and it caused a lot of commotion with the fans. But I'm just
necessary shot.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's on the ref because the fighter's job is to fight until the ref pulls them off, and that's what they signed up to do. That's their job, and so no hate on Gregory Rodriguez for that, and really not that much on Herb either. I mean, Herb got there; he was a little behind, but it happens in the sport, and all in all, we just have to move past it. And Herb's still one of the best refs in the game, so he is where he is for a reason. But lower down on the card, another KO, Jose Miguel Delgado winning in under 30 seconds with a knee, one of the cleanest knees I've seen in a while. Tracy Cortez getting a dominant decision over Viviane Araujo, showing an improvement in the striking. Lots of control time, almost closer to 10 minutes of control time. She did really well. And then Terrence McKinney, I mean, with Terrence McKinney, it seems like he's either just going to get knocked out in the first round or finish in the first round, or that he'll be the one that ends the fight in the first round. It was good to see. It was really impressive to see him jump on a choke like that and show him becoming more well-rounded.
Yeah, Borshev, I mean, who gets caught with a guillotine in the big 2025? Kind of crazy. But shout out McKinney, man, for ruining my parlay. Glad you won, though, buddy.
Yeah, Slavoclaus is always fun, though. I don't think any stock drops for him. And then, lastly, Oklahoma State native Jacoby Smith.
Oklahoma native.
From Muskogee, Oklahoma, went to Oklahoma State. I think he was the bigged favorite in UFC history coming into this fight against Nico Price, which I get to a degree. He definitely showed a little bit of his youth in MMA. He gassed himself out a little bit in the first round and then was able to just use his strength and wrestling pedigree to end up getting the choke and get Nico to the ground. But all in all, like we said before, I think this is the best card of the year so far. It was really entertaining. Finishes all around the card. And at the top of the bill, we've got the biggest star in the company and someone that is on the best 3-fight winning streak that I've ever seen. So,
yeah, I enjoyed this card. It was a lot of fun. Now we got to sit through 318. But I hope the UFC can get their shit together and get some better pay per views getting made. That's just one complaint I've had throughout the year. Like I get it. Like Guru said, and I agree. Not every card has to be stacked, but can one be? Can we get one?
Yeah, shout out Guru.
But this was a good card. Shout out the new lightweight champion, number one pound for pound. I'm glad Islam let you enjoy the spotlight. We all know what would have happened instead.
I don't know. At this point, I mean, seeing Topuria pass the guard of Oliveira that easily and then put him out like that, I really don't know who I would pick in that hypothetical fight. That being said, I don't know if we ever see it. But that'll be the end of the video. The next card will be UFC Nashville, Derek Lewis main event in 2025. Probably more exciting than this, honestly. But we'll wrap it up there and then break down that card.